Subaru is one of those manufacturers that from top to bottom have exceptional crossovers that checks off all the boxes for most car shoppers in the US. Each year, it was the Forester and Outback jockeying for position as being the best-selling model for the brand. But that sibling rivalry has been put on hold, as the Crosstrek became Subaru's bread and butter in 2022, leading it to being the most popular vehicle from this Japanese manufacturer. Some of the credit can go to the high prices for brand new cars, swaying buyers to becoming more frugal. But the Crosstrek has always demonstrated that it's a well-rounded and capable subcompact crossover worthy of being the best-selling vehicle in its segment. So here are 5 reasons why you should buy a 2024 Subaru Crosstrek. "2024 could very well be a pivotal model year, not only for Subaru, but the Crosstrek as well, with the much anticipated arrival of the Wilderness trim, which should reinforce Subaru's dominance in this market. For many returning buyers, they'll probably wonder what is new, as the body lines and overall architecture seems to be the exact same as last year. What hasn't gone untouched, however, is the front fascia, as the Crosstrek undergoes a rather important transformation, taking some styling cues from the Outback while also getting a unique appearance that separates itself from the rest of the crossover lineup. Starting up top, thinner and sleeker LED steering responsive headlights and the reshaped hexagonal grille design does give off sportier vibes for 2024, and not seen on the prior generation is the thin gloss gray trim piece that flows from the headlights to the Subaru emblem. Similar to its larger sibling, the plastic cladding for the fenders and bumper becomes more pronounced around the now standard LED fog lights for the premium trim and above. And showing its relation to the WRX, the active air outlets found on the front wheel arches improves the aerodynamics of this crossover, adding some much needed stability to the on-road performance. While ultimately, most of the Crosstrek's road presence is heavily influenced by the Impreza hatchback it's based on, it seems like for the 3rd generation, Subaru is deliberately evolving the Crosstrek into being a more capable and fun subcompact crossover that's multidimensional and chosen by customers not only for its pricing, but because of the value and capability it's offering. Then coming around to the back, the alterations to the road presence are just as substantial for the rear fascia as they were up front, as the Crosstrek receives reshaped taillight housings that follow a similar design path to the Ascent, giving this crossover a more aggressive and upscale look. But as we've seen throughout the exterior, the plastic cladding has also been remolded around the reflectors, wheel arches, and rear bumper, beefing up the ruggedness for the Crosstrek, while at the same time setting us up for the all-new Wilderness trim for this generation. More importantly, the Crosstrek retained its hatchback body lines, and fundamentally isn't a deviation from its predecessors that's helped propel this crossover to the top in this market. The subcompact crossover market, for all intents and purposes, can be looked to as being the continuation of econoboxes, as their fuel efficiency, pricing, and practicality is perfect for those on a budget. The Subaru Crosstrek is a little different, where it's a lifted hatchback that's not as small as one would think. For starters, the second row seating area can accommodate average-sized adults, and despite having difficulty trying to squeeze a third person in on a longer drive, leg and headroom are more than adequate, even if you opt for a moonroof. This is further compounded by the rear cargo area, which gives you right around 20 cubic feet of room, providing more than enough space for groceries and travel bags if you're planning a weekend getaway. However, where the Crosstrek separates itself from others in this segment is with its class-leading ground clearance of 8.7 inches, which is standard across all trim levels, except for the Wilderness, which receives an off-road focused suspension that lifts this crossover by just over a half inch. Then throw in Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system that also comes standard, and now you have a list of incentives by choosing a Subaru over the competition. Subaru has been one of few brands that have been reluctant to go all in on interior technology, as they haven't yet introduced a full digital gauge cluster unlike some rivals, such as Hyundai and Kia. But for 2024, the Crosstrek now receives the 11.6-inch touchscreen, with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, replacing the dual-screen setup that was offered last generation. Now you have a cleaner layout that does limit button clutter, as the buttons for the front and rear defrosters, the dual-zone climate control, and dials for the volume and tuning are mounted on both sides of the head unit, with the fan speed and AC controls integrated into the screen found at the bottom. If you remember the multicolored information display that sat above the user interface on the dashboard last year, that's all moved to the top of the screen. Similar to the 6 and 8-inch touchscreens, the Starlink infotainment system for 2024 has the same layout, with quick access icons that get you to different menus. And basically, it's a tablet molded into the dashboard, which should become second nature to use after a few minutes. The vehicle settings will also have their own menu, including the ability to activate X mode and your eyesight driver assist technologies. Below, you'll have a cubby for a smartphone, and you'll also find a USB-C and USB input with a wireless phone charging pad being available. 2024 also brings with it a restyled center console, where the cup holders are staggered and there's a noticeable scale back on the gloss black trim. Getting into the seating comfort, our model was the Premium, so we had cloth seats. However, we think they provide more bolstering and support than last year, fitting the Crosstrek's sportier appeal for 2024. Overall, while not drastic changes, there was a noticeable improvement in the interior quality as well, where Subaru added some softer touch materials and padding where necessary, to make the Crosstrek a more comfortable and slightly more upscale subcompact crossover. Having recently featured last generation's Subaru Crosstrek, we were intrigued to find out if Subaru was serious about the improvements they had made to the chassis, suspension, and the brand's global platform. One of our reservations with this crossover in the past was its lack of feedback when cornering. And while the steering was fluid and responsive, it wasn't the most engaging. By stiffening up the suspension by 10% and the addition of aerodynamic elements to the exterior, the Crosstrek not only felt more planted on the roadways, but the handling was tighter, giving this vehicle sportier and more athletic tendencies, not seen in this subcompact crossover before. As a result, we had far more confidence in the corners and on back roads, and some of that can be attributed to Subaru dropping in the WRX's dual pinion steering rack that we think is an overlooked element for 2024. What has gone untouched is what's under the hood. As for the base and Premium, you'll receive the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, producing 152 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque, which is paired with a CVT. While cosmetically and technologically much has changed for the Crosstrek, the powertrains carry over from last generation to the 2024 model, including the 2.5 that's standard for the Sport and Limited. In terms of accelerations and straight-line speed, the Crosstrek feels very much the same as last year, and despite being equipped with a CVT, the simulated gear shifts keeps the on-road performance feeling refined and smooth, which is key for a crossover priced at $30,000. For Subaru's best-selling model, there were no expectations of wholesale changes, nor was there a need for the brand to go in a slightly different direction with one of the hottest subcompact crossovers in the US. The very essence of this vehicle was to be affordable, while at the same time offering the same features and capabilities that can be found in the Outback and Forester, but in a smaller package. For just over a decade and now 3 generations in, Subaru has achieved what many in this market aspire to be, and that's providing an enticing and appealing crossover that's not only practical and off-road worthy, but fun to drive and unquestionably the best value you're going to find at around $30,000. Having secured a loyal consumer base throughout the years, returning customers can enjoy the new additions and improvements to the Crosstrek, without having this vehicle fundamentally change from one year to the next. It's for that reason we believe the Crosstrek should be at the top of your list if you're looking at buying a subcompact crossover this year. We hope you enjoyed this quick buyer's guide for the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos like this one. And if you're interested in buying a Subaru Crosstrek or any other crossover, make sure to check out our full reviews to help you find your next vehicle. And thanks for watching.